Yeah, it's these 3 rainy days.
Yes, exactly.
That's
We'll start the meeting in just a minute.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Montgomery Township Board of Supervisors meeting for February 9th, 2026. My name is Tanya Bamford, and I am the chair of the Board of Supervisors. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start with announcements. Black History Month is a month-long February observance that honors the achievements, history, and contributions of African Americans. Founded in 1926 by historian Carter G. Woodson and expanded into a national month in 1976, it highlights both well-known and overlooked stories essential to understanding American history. The month encourages learning, reflection, and recognition of the vital role African Americans have played in shaping our nation. On February 14th, 2022, the Board of Supervisors adopted Resolution 2022-07, recognizing Black History Month in Montgomery Township. Today, we continue to recognize and celebrate February as Black History Month in Montgomery Township. Moving on to agenda item 4, public comment. Persons wishing to make public comment during this meeting on any items not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Please feel free to come forward to the microphone and state whether or not you're a township resident or business owner. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on an item that's not on the agenda?
Hello, Jay Wachewski, Pinecrest. 2 items, real quick one. Month ago, we talked about updating the 5-year plan. I was looking for an update on how that was going.
A 5-year
Financial plan. I had brought up that we had a gap from our revenues and expenses and how we were going to close the gap. And the answer was you were going to work on updating the 5-year plan for that.
So if you're referring to the capital investment plan that we had previously done?
The budget that we have,
Okay.
where,
Yes.
Our expenses last year were $7+ million more than we took in revenue. I asked about that, what we were planning to do to close that gap. And 2 answers I got were capital expenses were going to go down in the future, and that the township was going to look at its 5-year plan to address that issue.
Right. So capital plans take quite a bit of time to compile based on information that needs to be pulled from all of our different department heads, but we'll be sure to provide you with an update as soon as it's available.
Because my main question is about what are we doing to close that gap? And there wasn't an answer last time, so I'm following up a month later about it.
Thank you. As soon as we have more to report, we'll be sure to announce it.
And then the last quick question was the EV charging. Is that still a viable project? If it is, I got a bunch of questions and answers. And I was figuring email was the best way to address that.
So, Mr. Wachewski, this is a public comment section and not necessarily a Q&A.
Yeah.
But if there are questions that you would like to submit to the staff so that we can answer them for you offline, we'd be happy to do that.
That's what I was just asking. For the EV, is it best to do it via email?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be wonderful.
And is there
Carolyn, our township manager,
taking the lead on that? So should I address it to her with a copy to you?
Sure.
Or the whole group?
You are welcome to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Agenda item 5, announcement of executive session. Township Solicitor Sean Kilkenny.
Sure, the Board of Supervisors met in executive session earlier this evening in the board conference room at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. They are legitimate subjects of executive session under the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law.
Thank you, Solicitor. Moving on to agenda item 6, the consent agenda. I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented for the following minutes of the January 26, 2026 Board of Supervisors meeting, payment of bills for February 9th, 2026, and the end of maintenance for Love Car Wash. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? And actually, I did want to take a moment for our township manager to address a couple of the items that are on the expenses.
Thank you. A question came up about the two expenditures for Glick Fire Equipment Company. The first one was $207,218. The other one was $223,635. The reason they came out of the Capital Reserve Fund and not the Fire Services Fund is because they are the cost to outfit the two new fire trucks that are currently at Pierce. They will go to Glick next, and then all the equipment will be put on them. So since it's going on a fixed asset and that asset has a life beyond 1 year, obviously, it comes out of the capital reserves. But that money was accounted for when we did the first 5-year plan back in 2020, and also as part of the borrowing we did to fund that capital plan.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. Any public comment? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 7, volunteer committee applicant for EAC, Jamie Pizzi. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. We received an application from a resident interested in filling the vacancy that has recently come up on our EAC. And tonight she is here to introduce herself to you and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Pizzi. I'm born in Massachusetts, raised in Florida, and I've lived in Pennsylvania since 2015. I've been a Montgomery Township resident since 2021. I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology and political science from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. I graduated from the Villanova University School of Law in 2018, and I am a current member of the Pennsylvania Bar. I currently work for the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts on the Stop Violence Against Women grant program as a consultant. In that role, I act as a subject matter expert and coordinator for training curriculum for the Pennsylvania judiciary and court personnel. I also help spearhead assessments of the system, as well as system enhancements aimed at improving services for survivors of interpersonal violence and holding perpetrators of abuse accountable. Prior to that job, I worked for the Villanova Law Institute to address commercial sexual exploitation, where I provided post-conviction relief representation for survivors of sex trafficking. Before I moved to Montgomery Township, I lived in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, in a small condo association. Although it was the main line, it was not very fancy. So there wasn't a big budget to make garden improvements and things of that nature. So it was kind of an unspoken rule that you could just take care of the garden outside of your building and no one would really bat an eye. So as a law student, I started gardening as a way to relieve stress and have something to do besides reading. And I gardened outside my building, and pretty quickly the homeowners association board took notice, and they actually asked if I wanted to spearhead a garden project for something that was already planned construction that was going to tear up a part of the property. So I said yes, and I ran with it, and I kept helping them out. And eventually, when there was a spot on the board for the secretary, I ran, was elected, and did that for about 2 years until I moved up here. I really liked it, and I've been looking for another way to get involved in the community ever since. I care deeply about the environment, care about sustainable practices. I know about the importance of enhancing the natural beauty with plants and trees. So with that, I hope you'll have me for the Environmental Advisory Commission. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pizzi. You have an impressive background.
Thank you.
Any questions?
And I will also say she attended our last our lawn replacement program seminar that we had here just a couple weeks ago, and that's where she introduced herself to me, and right away responded with, "Yes, I would like to join," and followed up with her resume and filled out the application. So without any hesitation and conversation, it seems that she's well on her way to making great contributions to our EAC.
Thank you.
It's a strong endorsement from our board liaison to the EAC.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I'm still in awe at all that you just shared.
Thank you. Oh, you should meet some of my friends.
Yes, I know.
Well, hearing no further discussion, I'll move to appoint Jamie Pizzey to the Environmental Advisory Committee to serve an existing 3-year term to expire on January 1st, 2029. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steps are.
Yeah.
Moving on to agenda.
There's something else?
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Cornell and mother of 3, grandmother of 7. I've lived in Montgomery County, Bucks County, Florida. Now back in Montgomery County, retired from Eastern Center for Arts and Technology as an administrator, and I worked after retirement with Hampton Greens, which was a community of condominiums, and I was on the board there. And lately, I have been working with a program called RSVP, which you're probably all familiar with.
I am.
And I help with the over at Bridle Path Elementary School with kindergartners with the reading program. And I've worked also at other local schools and also for the Tutors for Kids programs in Florida. So that's about me in a nutshell. And I hope to be some help to the volunteer senior committee.
And by way of introduction, this is agenda item 8, and our volunteer committee applicant for the senior committee, Elizabeth Cornell.
And so now
And
let
here
me
you are.
sing. Now let me sing a couple of
Thank you very
praises.
much.
Liz came to our last meeting and hopped right in like she's been with us for the past years, and was lending her thoughts and ideas on things that we were talking about. So automatically I'm thinking, okay, this is a nice fit already. So I'm 100% on board.
Hopefully I'll be of some help.
Yeah.
Oh, another wonderful endorsement from our board liaison, Audrey Ware-Jones. Well, are there any other questions from the board? Well, hearing none, then I will move to appoint Elizabeth Cornell to the senior committee to serve an existing 1-year term to expire on January 1st, 2027.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you both for your service.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 9, authorization to bid concrete curb and handicap ramp replacement for the 2027 paving project. Greg Reif, Public Works Director.
Thank you. Included in the 2026 capital investment plan is concrete curb and handicap ramp replacement for the 2027 paving project. Competitive bids will be solicited utilizing the PennBid website. A total of $524,000 has been included in the 2026 capital investment plan for the replacement of concrete curb and handicap ramps for the 2027 paving project. So it would be our recommendation, the Board of Supervisors approves the authorization for the advertisement of the bid.
Any questions from the board? No? All right, I'll move to authorize the advertisement of the concrete curb and handicap ramp replacement for the 2027 paving project utilizing PennBid. Is there a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 10, authorization to bid in-place paving for 2026 road projects. Greg Reif, Public Works.
Thank you. Included in the 2026 capital investment plan are roads which are scheduled to be resurfaced as part of the township's road improvement plan. There is an attached copy of the roads to be done. Competitive bids will be solicited utilizing the PennBid website. The 2026 budget includes $1,454,000 in the state liquid fuels fund for this project. So it would be our recommendation that the Board of Supervisors approves the authorization for the advertisement of this.
Any questions for Greg? All right, I'll move to authorize the advertisement of the 2026 in-place paving bid utilizing pen bid.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 11, authorization to bid tennis court improvements at Wendell Stray Park and Rose Twig. Greg Rife.
Thank you. Included in the 2026 capital investment plan are improvements to the 4 tennis courts at Wendell Stray Park at Rose Twig. Gilmore and Associates, the township engineers, prepared the required bid specifications, and competitive bids will be solicited utilizing the Penn Bid website. A total of $321,000 has been included in the 2026 capital investment plan for tennis court improvements at Wendell Stray Park at Rose Twig. So again, it would be our recommendation the Board of Supervisors approves the authorization for the advertisement of the bid.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll move to authorize the advertisement of the bid for the 4 tennis court improvements at Wendell Stray Park, Rose Twig, utilizing pen bid.
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to public safety. Item 12 is Fire Department of Montgomery Township 2026 fundraising efforts. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. The Fire Department of Montgomery Township must advise the Board of Supervisors annually before planned fundraising activities per your fire services agreement with them dated February 14th, 2022. Expenditures obtained through the fundraising or non-township tax revenues shall be allocated in the approved budget or any budgetary amendments made by the FDMT or represent a reasonable expenditure necessary to conduct or provide fire protection services. They are seeking board's approval for fundraising activities, including their mailer, which will go out in the winter of 2026, the business fundraising mailer in summer 2026, car washes in summer of 2026, and dine and donate events throughout 2026. The township has budgeted $10,000 for the FDMT fundraising activities for 2026. There will be no additional impact on the township's budget. There would be a positive impact on FDMT's budget for any money they collect through their fundraising activities. Staff is recommending that this year the Board of Supervisors again approve the planned fundraising activities and contribute $10,000 for their fundraising activities.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll move to approve the 2026 planned fundraising activities of the FDMT and the contribution of $10,000 to the FDMT for their fundraising activities.
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 13 is the adoption of ordinance amendments for traffic control, right turn prohibited on red signal. Bill Peoples, Chief of Police.
Thank you. Included in the Board of Supervisors agenda packet is an ordinance proposing an amendment to Montgomery Township Ordinance 222-11, right turn prohibited on a red signal. The proposed amendment would prohibit right turns on red for vehicles traveling eastbound on Horsham Road and turning right on the Stump Road, as well as for vehicles traveling westbound on Horsham Road and turning right on the Stump Road. This amendment is being recommended in accordance with PennDOT guidance. Staff recommends that the board adopts the proposed ordinance amendments.
We've had quite a few accidents out here, haven't we?
We do, and we are still in the warning phase for the red light cameras there as well.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Can I ask a question before?
Yes.
Chief, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are we looking at so far this year for?
I'm glad I looked at this.
You
So
know me.
the numbers are still coming in. So we started January 19th, And the numbers we have from January 19th to January 28th, which is all processed, we've had a total of 182 violations. Just here. And again, we are currently 22 days into the warning process, which is 30 days.
We have public comment.
Homer Lizardo, 119 Embassy Drive. I'm assuming that this is just more of formality, that we have to amend the ordinance to cover it, since I think the signs are already up saying no right turn. So I just wanted to clarify that that is what it's doing. It's just paperwork that we're having to file.
Um,
I can answer that. That's correct. The PennDOT did put the lights up or the signs up, but we are still in a no violation stage.
Okay.
So it's the purpose of getting the ordinance done before we actually start going live with it. No officers are ready to any
Okay.
tickets back either right now.
Like I said, I noticed the signs
Mhm.
up
Yeah.
a while ago, and I was like, this seemed kind of odd that we're adopting something where the signs are already up. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question. It's in accordance with PennDOT guidance. So did we ask for it and they had to approve it? The new turn on red?
When we did the whole red light project, PennDOT's part of that, and part of the recommendation was to do no turn on reds for those two intersections.
We had asked them for 2 intersections in our initial letter to them, and they came back with 7 recommended intersections based on the number of accidents and the volume of traffic going through them. But we did the first 2 and then wanted to wait and see, how that went. And now we're doing this one, and then we're going to put a pause on it before we go any further.
So people can now get a ticket for turning right on red, correct?
Correct. It's posted
Once you
after this is
ordain that.
done, posted no turn on red,
Right.
and after the 30-day grace period where it's warnings right now.
Okay. Thanks.
I didn't see the sign. Is it a 24-hour a day one?
It is.
Or is it not? Because the one up the street, isn't it like 9 to 6 or something?
Yes, that's got some time parameters. This is all the time. Yeah.
One other thing I like to regularly ask, do we make any money off of the red light cameras?
No, we do not. It's
Okay.
it's the whole thing is funded by the price of it. It helps our officers that have to use their own time. It pays for them to review everything. And at the end of the day, there's no cost at all to the township.
Okay. I think that a lot of people often ask that question or make the
Mhm.
assumption that we make money off of this and that's why it's put in place. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Well, if there's a citation for a right turn on red, as opposed to the red light enforcement
That
camera.
still falls under the same section for red light violations,
It's
just a
still a red light
subsection of that.
Oh, we have another question, another public comment.
Oh, I talked too much. Triggered another question.
How much revenue are we potentially losing to a third party?
I'm sorry, how much what?
Revenue do we lose?
Well, the way the law is written on what you can and you can't do, and we can't make money off of this project by the state law. So part of the money that comes in actually pays for the equipment and the company that supplies equipment and maintains it. And then at the end of the year, any surplus goes to PennDOT.
And then PennDOT uses it to fund the red light camera grant that they offer municipalities throughout the Commonwealth.
Okay.
We're not allowed by law to collect money beyond what our costs are.
Okay, no, it's obviously making money for somebody because they continue to put these up. So it's not a money loss proposition.
It's revenue neutral for us. We're allowed to cover our costs. So
Right,
we
but I'm
cover
just-
the cost of the officer who reviews the files, and we cover a cost of the hearing examiner for anybody who does an appeal.
It would be interesting to see the breakdown of those costs, because if we're talking $500,000 a year, and that if we were to, is there any way that we could take it on as a township?
It would be against the state law.
Well, state
You
law
have to, if you want to know how much money comes into the state annually, you have to do a right to know request to PennDOT.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And I think it's important to clarify, the reason we're doing this is not to just penalize and put out traps for it's actually because we're trying to reduce high velocity traffic accidents, which is happening. And that's what have been identified by PennDOT and by our officers here. And we're hoping to be collecting that data to be able to show that having these preventative measures will actually make it safer to drive through Montgomery Township. That's the goal.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 26-356, amending ordinance 11-222, right turn prohibited on red signal to prohibit right turns on red for vehicles traveling on Horsham Road, either eastbound or westbound, and turning onto Stump Road.
So moved.
Second.
Any further public comment? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Which is actually a really good segue into item number 14, our proposed traffic calming policy. Bill Peoples, Chief of Police.
Thank you. At the January 26, 2026 Board of Supervisors meeting, I advised that a new traffic calming policy was recommended as part of a PennDOT traffic study. The police department reviewed several similar policies from surrounding departments, as well as Chapter 18 of PennDOT's Publication 13, Contextual Roadway Design. After reviewing these materials, a comprehensive traffic calming policy was developed using best practices identified in comparable policies. The proposed traffic calming policy was reviewed at the February 4th, 2026 Public Safety Committee meeting. Following the review, the policy was endorsed by the Public Safety Committee to be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors for review and adoption. The proposed traffic calming policy has been included with the board information summary for your review.
I just have one question, Chief.
Sure.
I know at the Public Safety Committee meeting, there was the addition that you had suggested that you put in yellow. Is that in this that we have?
That is in there. Yes.
Just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Would you like to?
Yeah, what was the addition?
What was the addition?
I got to speak to that.
Remind me. Yeah.
So when I was reading it through it, after the original draft, for the second draft of it, I saw that there wasn't a section in there that if it didn't gain complete public support, it was almost like it would just go away. But if the township deems that it is a public safety and interest of public safety, that we would move forward with some type of a measure. Or, I'm sorry, we have the option to.
So at this stage, this is being presented to the board for comment and consideration, but there's no action item that's outlined. So does anyone have any other discussion at this point? Any other questions?
I just think it's a really well laid out plan and would have eliminated some of the confusion we had with the most recent traffic calming implementation we attempted at Grays Lane. So because this adds in the public support of the residents surrounding the intended plan. So it's very well laid out.
Carolyn, what are our next steps?
So if there are no concerns tonight for the board, no suggested edits, no questions that you have, then we could put it on an upcoming agenda for a formal adoption. The one thing that this does also is this provides a framework going forward. So somebody comes into the board and says, well, I know in 2026, you approved a traffic calming measure on this road. Why can't I get one? Now there's metrics in there. You know, there's a grid to look at and say, okay, how much cars per day? Have there been accidents? Has anything else been done? And, you know, recommendations from the highway safety officers. And then again, there is that residential component. If this is what you want, then you go and gather names for the people who live in that immediate area. So it really, it's going to help the board going forward, as well as the public safety committee. If someone comes into the public safety committee and says, I have a complaint, I want some traffic calming put in, because there was always a concern in the past. Well, if you do it for one, you have to do it for everybody. And then what does that do? So now we have a measure to say why we do it or why we don't.
So anybody who is following along what transpired last year with our traffic calming initiative on Grays Lane, how would that situation, which still exists,
Right.
you know, we put something in place, the chicanes, subsequently removed them based on feedback from the community. How would this that situation be addressed? Would this qualify for this, or would we continue to address that based on recommendations coming from the survey or the study that was done from PennDOT?
The way this differs from that is the initial person comes in, they do an application that they want it looked into. The highway safety unit will look into it to see if it qualifies with several qualifiers in the policy that they have to qualify for traffic calming. Then it goes back to the original petitioner, the person that wanted to start the whole thing. Then they would have to get 60% of votes in the area that we map out for them. And they just have to have interest in that, in the area, to have something done, just to look at it as far as traffic calming. After that's done, it comes back. A plan is made for different options that we can do. And then it goes to the Public Safety Committee. Public Safety Committee will come up with a plan. And then after that plan is come out, it actually will get, there'll be, plan will be mailed out again to that affected area. And that plan will be given to them, and then they have an option to actually have a ballot for it, whether they're in support of it or not in support of it. And the thing about this is if they don't do anything, it goes as they're in favor of it. But the bottom line is it gives that plan, the whole plan of what's going to be done for traffic calming, so they know what's going to happen. Then the final thing then after that goes, when that comes back with a certain percentage of votes, it'll actually come to the Board of Supervisors for adoption, and public comment will happen at that time again.
But Grays Lane won't have to go through this again. right?
Now
The
we will be able to,
residents-
yeah, we're still within 3 years, so we'll be able to skip ahead to go back to the petitioner and tell them, this is essentially what you have to do to get a certain amount of support in the community. And then after that, we can just pick it up right from there. We don't have to do the study all over again.
So that was a question, and because that came up at the public safety
Yes.
meeting, I asked that, does Grays Lane
Mhm.
have to start all over again? And
Yeah.
you mentioned that possibly pieces of it they would not have to. But how do we bring this? There's been a few folks that have come here month after month asking about Grays Lane. I mean, do we give them a call? Do we share that this is, or wait until it's adopted?
You would have to adopt it first.
Right,
Once you
wait until
adopt
it's
it, then we
adopted.
can let that
Okay.
particular resident know it's been adopted. If he wants a copy of it, he can do a right to know request. And then he can speak to Chief Peoples as far as what the next
What's
steps
the
would
next
be
steps?
if
Okay.
he wants to see it. Because as far as I know, he is the only one who is still coming out and saying, you took the chicanes down. What are you going to put in as an alternative remedy? Everybody else is pretty much gone in the woodwork
Nobody.
now.
Okay, I thought there were a few people prior.
He's the
to-
only one
he
I've
was-
heard from consistently.
He's the only one I heard that he wanted the chicanes to stay.
Right, but then his
Right.
point was, now you took them out, so
Right. What are you gonna
what's
do?
your alternative?
Okay.
Did you have any?
I just want to say, I just think that it's such a great step to say that we have public involvement in that they can self-govern, come up with solutions themselves as well as, and then bring solutions to us, but we are going to give, advice to them from officials that are experts in the field. So I just think bringing them all together, this is just a great way of solving the problem. So.
Yeah, it's a playbook, and I think that's
Mhm.
what we had hoped for. So that this, for me, meets all the criteria that I was looking for personally. And it has a strong endorsement from our board liaison as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have to give credit to the highway safety officers. They did a lot of the heavy lifting on this. Officer Mike Jenkins and Peter Byrne did a lot of the research for the policy.
Oh, please extend our appreciation.
Absolutely.
All right, without any further discussion, we'll move on to agenda item 15, request authorization to purchase replacement desktop computers. Bill Peoples, Chief of Police.
Thank you. In 2026, the police department is scheduled to replace the desktop computers assigned to the patrol sergeants, highway safety unit, and command staff. These 10 computers have reached the end of their service life and manufacturer warranties. Funding for the capital replacement was approved in the 2026 final budget. Attached is a quote dated February 2nd, 2026 from Dell Technologies, an authorized vendor under the CoStar's Cooperative Purchasing Program, to provide the requested computers at a cost of $15,748.32. This cost is 8.6% below the manufacturer's suggested retail price of $18,296.20, representing a savings of $2,547.88. The equipment meets the specifications that were prepared by the police department. The total cost to replace the above listed computers is $15,748.32. A total of $12,210 was included in the 2026 approved final budget police department capital replacement to purchase the above listed computers. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the awarding of the contract for the reference purchase for the 2026 approved final budget.
Any comments or questions from the board? All right, hearing none, I'll move to award a contract for the purchase of 10 desktop computers from Dell Technologies, an authorized vendor under the CoStarz Cooperative Purchase Program in the amount of $15,748 in accordance with their submitted quote.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Moving on to the Community and Recreation Center. Agenda item 16, authorization to retrofit the parking lot lights at the Community and Recreation Center. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. Included in your packet is a proposal from Stouch Lighting Solutions to take the existing parking lot lights, which are solar powered, which are over 10 years old now, and to retrofit them with current LED technology. In the packet, you'll see, which I thought was pretty impressive. They have a before and after picture. So they have I guess a drone shot, if you will, of the parking lot at night. And as you know, as all of you have been over there, the illumination is challenging at best. And then they have an after picture, which shows, again, the dramatic difference it would be. And this is primarily being done for the safety of the visitors who are coming in and out of the building at night. The parking lot lights were evaluated and prioritized as part of our study that was done to the CRC because we knew we were approaching the 10th year. So the board hired Dewey Engineering to look at everything. The first thing we prioritized was the exterior concrete work because there were significant cracking. And we also wanted to make sure that the steps weren't as deep and had an additional railing in the center. Then we went and replaced the gymnasium floor last year because that was also in need of being evaluated. We looked at not only things that were safety, but what were forward facing. So if something is in a back office, you know, that didn't get the priority that these things do. The third one now is the parking lot lights. So the proposal that you have in front of you from Stouch Lighting Solutions, they are an approved CoStarz vendor. The amount is $236,871.86. $220,000 was included in the 2026 budget, and staff is recommending that the board authorize us to contract with Stouch Lighting Solutions for the parking lot light retrofit.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any questions or comments from the board? Wow. I, for one, know that this is something that's desperately needed over there. We have those temporary lights that are in place and fortunate to have them, but a more permanent solution is definitely warranted here. I see that we do have some public comments.
Yes. Will the new lighting eliminate the problem with, as you come, I guess that's going westbound on Horsham, as you come over the hill before Stump, as you come down, there's a light that is on that glares out onto Horsham Road. Will this solve that problem?
Yeah, the way that I understand the LED lights are more downward facing,
Okay.
whereas the ones that they have are strategically placed to broadly light and oftentimes if you are standing on the top steps, it can be somewhat blinding. So they do the job, but not as well as it would be done when it's done properly.
The picture looks good. I just can't tell on the main road as you're coming, as you come over the hill, it sometimes it's just right in the middle of your vision. So that's one of the things. The other question I have is I guess roughly $17,000 more than what was budgeted. What's going to be offset in the capital reserve budget to make up that difference?
We'll have to look at that.
Okay.
We deal with these things on a
We win some and lose some.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to understand, do you do that, or do you kind of wait till Q3 and say, okay, we're over budget, we're not going to do this project and this project? Or do you start developing, well, we're over now, so we need to start delaying certain things? I'm just trying to understand a little bit of.
It's been our experience in recent years that it pretty much washes. So this one might be 17,000 over, but when we get the curbing fit in, we'll see that it's under. And so that's what we track it during the year and the board gets a report.
Okay. I'm just trying to, you've got that, you got $3,000 on computers, and it's like, everything seems to be costing more than what we budgeted. So eventually you're gonna have to either curtail projects or do some, split them up over a year. So I just wanted to understand what the process is. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't see the proposal online to look at. Are these going to continue to be solar powered lights?
Yes.
So how many years out do we have to put generators in the parking lot to run them like we do now?
The reason we had to do generators is because the first generation of solar lights, so the building was put in 2015. The solar lights were actually dated a little earlier than that. And so they've reached their useful life. They just cannot hold a charge anymore, and we can no longer get parts for so the new ones we expect well beyond 10 years from them.
So they're expected to last 10 years. But the other ones, they didn't, I guess they didn't have a guarantee to last as long as they did.
No, they did not.
Darn. Okay. So the new ones are going to be solar, and they're going to shine in better direction.
If we went with the hard wiring, which was an option that the board had looked at, we were looking at over $350,000 to run the conduit and then to put hard wiring in.
But
this was the better option. And the solar, Floyd Schaefer, it takes a lot to convince him. And he, after reaching out to this company and seeing what they do, he is convinced that this is the best option.
if there was hardwired, we just wouldn't have to replace the batteries ever, but okay.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll move to approve the proposal from Stouch Lighting Solutions to retrofit the Community and Recreation Center parking lot lights at a cost of $236,871.86.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to Parks and Recreation. We have the Windlestray Farmhouse Renovation Project. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
Thank you. Included in your packet is a presentation that was prepared by Phillips and Donovan Architects, LLC. I can't believe it was actually in 2023. And then they did renderings for you in February of 2024, showing some concepts for the renovation and repurposing of the farmhouse, which is located in Windlestray Park. Staff was tasked by the board to, as well as the park board was tasked to look at grant opportunities. One of the things in talking amongst the staff that we realized is while the architect looked at the building, we need to look at actually the site around the building, including that bridge, because if we are going to make it where it's going to be used by vehicles and it's going to be ADA compliant, before we go for any grant applications, we want to get the best estimate for total costs. So one of the things we asked Gilmore and Associates, our township engineer, to do was to look at the site and to provide us with a detailed description of what would be necessary to make it accessible to the general public. Additionally, we need to obtain an updated cost estimate for improvements to the farmhouse, because 2023 and 2024, that was sort of the height of it. I'm hopeful that you might even see that it would be a little bit less, but unfortunately, as we're seeing, things are ticking up again. It's also important to keep in mind that any successful grant award has a deadline associated with it. So we need to be, while not shovel ready necessarily, we need to have an idea that, within 2 years or 3 years, whatever the grant period is, that we would be able to get this project completed. Based on past discussions among the park board, it was suggested that a nonprofit be established. As one suggestion was calling it Friends of Windlestray Park. I reached out to the solicitor's office. They indicated that not only can they do this, but they have done the formation of 501c3s for a number of their municipal clients, and they are in a position that they would be able to do that if that's the board's direction. And the other thing is that tonight we just wanted to get an idea of where the board stands with this, where we should be putting it in terms of our priorities, and what the really reasonable time frame is that we might be able to move forward with getting grant applications together, and then ultimately seeing the cost and then determine whether the board at that time wants to include it in the 5-year capital plan. So we're just looking for some direction, because I know the park board has, they're very enthusiastic. They think this would be a great opportunity. But I also know there's concerns, obviously, about the rising cost of things and that cost compared to some of our other capital needs. So it was just really put on the agenda tonight, just sort of to get some impressions from the board. If you still want to move forward with it, if you understand the fact that, a grant will take time, and if we are going to look at grants and fundraising, that will extend this out further.
We do have a member of the Parks Board with us, if she'd like to come
Laura?
up and say a few words.
She's the vice chair.
Good evening, Maura Giordano, co-chair of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So we have been working on this project for many years now, under the advisement of the Board of Supervisors, to kind of do some investigation into how we can really utilize the abandoned property that is in the middle of the park. And so I think where the committee stands at the moment is, like you had mentioned, Carolyn, looking for direction, and waiting to see if you'd like us to move forward with fundraising efforts. We are enthusiastic to move forward with fundraising efforts and glad to hear that a 501c3 would be possible, and hopeful that a reasonable timeline is able to be established. I think there's also understanding from the committee that there are a lot of things on the township's plate. And so I don't think that anybody is necessarily pushing for this in an unreasonable way. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Would you like to share a little bit about how the Parks Board envisions this facility, once it's renovated, would be used?
Absolutely. So the space has really, we've tried to be as broad as possible with the way that we've worked with the architects in designing the space, so that it can be used for meetings like this. It can be used for art classes. It can be used for nature gatherings. There's outdoor space as well that was incorporated, a patio, both on the exterior, both in the front and the back of the property, that could be used as part of just whatever kind of events or regular programming the township wanted to use it for. In some ways, I think the community center, while beautiful and very modern, and provides a lot of programming and space for our community, as someone who spends a lot of time there, who also works there part-time, I know that there is a thirst in the community for more space. There is, and I think that this would fulfill that.
And it's a historic building.
It is a historic building, so it would provide a way of keeping that that piece of history in our township.
Thank you, Maura. I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but you did a wonderful job. Great presentation.
Thank
you. Any feedback, discussion from the board?
I want to say I think there's a great opportunity for fundraising on this, especially if we have the 501c3 established, and possibly looking at public-private options of donations coming in from other nonprofits, as well as grants. I think the feasibility for there's a bridge over one of the creeks there that's probably the primary thing, because that can become very expensive very fast when water's involved. So we need to probably have a determination of what the impact of that bridge, what were the costs involved, and are there grants available to make that even a consideration, and then go forward from there. That's
the challenge of a bridge always is, so obviously, when if you have a 100-year storm, which we know it's not a 100-year storm anymore, it goes under that bridge. There's debris that goes under there. So the natural inclination is, well, if you're going to replace the bridge, make it higher. If you make it higher, you have to make it sloped more, because it has to be ADA.
Yeah.
So it means, in a perfect world, you'd be able just to make it really high, and, but we can't. If the higher you go, the wider it has to go out, so that the slope is ADA accessible. And that creates a challenge, because you are limited with the ground that's there. You have, we don't have a lot of space to put the bridge anywhere else. And, we talked about, obviously putting parking right near the building. We would want it ADA to make sure that the fill is adequate. This is going to, and Gilmore does have a person on their staff who does deal with bridges, because we're dealing with him with the culvert. Culverts on that road. He's also helping us with the bridge by Montgomery Elementary, that little, what I call a bridge, but people probably drive by and don't even realize it's there, but that also goes over water. But this is significant, where this is. So anything we do, we want to make sure that we have as close to an accurate cost as possible, especially when we start looking for money, because we don't want to be able to say we're ready to go and then find out that we have a shortfall. And the goal would try to be obviously to raise as much money as possible, but that's also a job. It's not something you could just give a staff person and say, by the way, I have another task for you. I want you to act as fundraisers. So setting at least up the 501c3, identifying maybe some larger donors, but then, I know somebody had talked about, the bricks, and the bricks are great, but the bricks have a maintenance issue too, so we want to make sure that whatever we do makes the most sense. But I was just concerned that the time frame that, it's like, why would this take long? Well, because we want to try to raise money first.
Right.
And we want to look at all different avenues, like I said, private-public partnerships are great. There's also some private foundations that we don't, as a government, typically have access to because of being a local government, but not a 501c3, whereas establishing a 501c3 might put us in a better position to be able to approach those people and request the money once we have sort of, and to me, that's where I see the park board is writing the narrative for this building and why it's important to keep the building and why it needs to have opportunities there for people that when we have a rec center. But the goal of the rec center has been to keep it busy, and it's succeeding. So we can't count on those rooms being available. I try to sometimes to get a room for something and it's 3 months out and Floyd's telling me it's not available. There's already something committed to there, which is a good problem to have. So to me, that would be like their real role would also be helping craft the narrative.
Agree. Thank you.
Yeah, I see no reason to not set up the 501c3, and then from there we have an opportunity to look at updating cost estimates, looking at what the needs are. We need to have a more updated cost estimate on that. Yeah, and see
It's a
what we
requisite
get.
for the grant applications too.
Yeah.
And so to ensure that we have the funding to offset the costs for the renovations, then we either cut bait on this project now, or we say yes, let's proceed in setting up that 501c3 and doing the
There could be
additional
alternative projects too, other than this, that a nonprofit could help fund too.
right.
Wouldn't just necessarily be this specific type of project, something alternative.
So I'm hearing you say that proceed to the
Yeah.
next steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, on board if we can do a 503. I just know with the when I was in corporate America and the clientele that I worked with, the 50 million and above clients all have foundations of some sort, and one of the first questions that would always come up, well, is it a nonprofit? And we're always willing to give, assuming they fit the criteria of their foundation. So that just makes it a little bit easier to find those bigger
Those
donors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And makes it appealing to them when they see that. So I love it.
I would be in support of doing the nonprofit, but I think we need to make sure that this is not another baby that we have to continue to pay for. We're having to raise taxes, and I also don't want to see it take away from the community center. That is almost running on its own. Hopefully we're not going to have to transfer money to it for too much longer, but I don't want to take things away from that and pull that back in a direction that we don't want it to go to.
I think that as Maura was saying, the Parks Board sees this as a complement to the Community and Recreation Center, and certainly not in competition with. But there are often times when there's no space available at the Community and Recreation Center, so this would supplement that, and also provide a different sort of space for different types of activities that aren't necessarily recreation in nature.
We just need to know that we can pay for it.
Yes,
Right, I
yes,
agree.
agreed. Okay, so is that the direction that you were looking
I'm good.
for?
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Moving on, agenda item 18, ratification of real estate tax appeal settlement, 1218 Welsh Road. Blaine Berge, Director of Finance.
The taxpayer for 1218 Welsh Road, a commercial condominium, filed an appeal for the 2024 tax year, disputing the assessed value of 2.176 million following the Board of Assessments issuance of a notice of no change in assessment. The budget impact, the proposed settlement between the school district and the taxpayer would result in a refund from the township to the taxpayer of $1,744. The assessed value of the property will be decreased by $485,000 for the 2026 tax year. Recommendation, the solicitor's office has reviewed the proposed settlement and recommends the Board of Supervisors approve the settlement.
If there are no questions from the board, I'll move to approve the stipulated settlement for the 1218 Welsh Road and authorize the township solicitor to execute the document on behalf of the township.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Blaine, we also have agenda item 19, which is the ratification of real estate tax appeal settlement for 1222 Welsh Road.
The taxpayer for 1222 Welsh Road, a commercial condominium, filed an appeal for the 2024 tax year, disputing the assessed value of $5.942 million following the board's issuance of a notice of no change. Budget impact, the proposed settlement between the school district and the taxpayer would result in a refund from the township to the taxpayer of $4,764.74. The assessed value of the property will be decreased by $1.327 million for the 2026 tax year. The solicitor's office has reviewed the settlement and recommends the Board of Supervisors approve.
Thank you, Blaine. If there are no questions from the board, I'll move to approve the stipulated settlement for 1222 Welsh Road and authorize the township solicitor to execute the document on behalf of the township.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, agenda item 20, consider adoption of the 2026 budget as amended. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
The 2026 operating budget, which had been approved at your December 15th, 2025 public meeting, was reopened at the January 5th, 2026 meeting per section 3202D of the second class township code, which allows for the board to amend the budget in January following a municipal election. The previous budget was then revised by staff at the board's direction, and an authorization to advertise the revised budget was passed at the January 26th meeting. The Board of Supervisors authorized the adoption of the revised budget. The budget was then made available for public inspection at the township building and on the township website. Staff is now recommending that the Board of Supervisors adopt the 2026 final budget as amended. And with this, we would meet the criteria to have it in place by February 15th.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll move to adopt the 2026 budget for all funds with operating expenditures totaling $34,640,400.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Nay.
Motion carries. Agenda item 21, adoption of ordinance number 26-357, establishing a fire tax. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
In keeping with the proposed plan for a fire tax to be levied to support the operations of the township's fire department, the solicitor's office has prepared and advertised an ordinance establishing a fire tax in Montgomery Township. Adoption of this ordinance allows us to notify the tax collector to revise the real estate tax bills to show this as a separate line item similar to the streetlight tax. In 2025, there was an internal allocation of 0.56 mils towards fire protection. This ordinance will add 0.44 mils to this for a total of 1 mil and will formally allocate it to the fire protection fund. So this is a change from the approved budget from 2025, which had 1.71 mil increase. We are now looking at a total of 1 mil increase with 0.44 going to the fire fund. This will secure a revenue stream and allow for additional hiring of career staff. And that number will be determined based on the outcome of the study and the board's decision at that time.
So we've already established the line item, fire tax.
Correct.
This is the, okay.
Any other board comment or discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to adopt ordinance number 26-357, formally establishing a fire tax in Montgomery Township.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Agenda item 22, establish the real estate tax millage for 2026. Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager.
So as a result of your discussion and our reopening of the budget and the amendment to change the real estate tax millage, we're now in a position to adopt a resolution which will establish our real estate tax millage for 2026 at 3.94 mils. The allocation would be 1.25 going to the general fund, 1 mil going to fire protection, 0.27 goes to parks and recreation, 0.52 goes to debt service, and 0.9 goes towards capital.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll move to adopt resolution number 2026-03, establishing the real estate tax millage for 2026 at 3.94 mils.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Is there any old business to come before the board?
Should I bring up the? Okay, yes, one thing that was asked the last meeting was that our environmental advisory committee discuss a wildlife ordinance feeding limitation. And the topic was brought up at our last meeting, which was last month, to talk about the unintentional feeding of wildlife through compost bins, and wanting to define that further. And I will say this, when I brought it up, they were able to define what compost is. But more importantly, and primarily what they wanted to say was that they think that putting forward an official ordinance about wildlife feeding may be jumping the gun right now, and that we need to probably talk more and provide more public education about the dangers of and downsides of feeding wildlife, that we unintentionally may be harming wildlife by this, and many people do not realize that because they didn't have that background information. So as much as they would like to provide the definition of what the compost is, what their biggest takeaway was, they would like to have the advice going forward that they would not like to have this be going forward as an ordinance. So I wanted to put that in front of the board as discussion.
So EAC is not in support of an ordinance that would ban that wildlife feeding.
Correct.
So and maybe let me just for clarity, because when we talked about it, I heard that piece of it, but I think it was, you mentioned about the feral cats or the cats, the feeding of that piece of it, which I had mentioned that, we could look at possibly taking out. And then also just the fact that it was such a hard dollars around, what the fees could be if you do this, if you feed the wildlife and people take it further, and what that could look like. And that we maybe need to look at softening what the fee structure looks like, number one. And then number two, as I mentioned, that the part about the cats was put in because other ordinances have shown that, but we can, after I did some due diligence, as I shared with you too, that there was some concern with not having that in there. And I was made to understand that that probably is a piece that part of it should come out. I was also mentioning that we could look at it as a two-prong approach where we educate. We absolutely should. I think that makes all the sense in the world. But that we still work towards putting some sort of ordinance in place. Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't be feeding our wildlife. And that, that's concerning. That is concerning to some folks. And that we need to maybe just put some sort of structure around it, some sort of plan, like we just did a traffic calming plan, some sort of plan around it, as well as educate. As well as educate. I think definitely the education piece that was spot on. That something that we should do.
I think what they were saying was it's a possibility that the education piece may actually alleviate the problem, and it doesn't seem to be. Have we even assessed how widespread this problem is? My understanding is it's one, maybe two people, and there are instances of this. Do we need to put things in place where now everyone starts to police each other's neighbors and so forth, with penalties and violations, and putting the enforcement on our staff, etc. That puts them in an awkward position as well, in a hard position. So anyway, they said we need to, as an advisory committee, come forward and say this is what our advice is to maybe just go with a.
And so, what does education look like? Did they speak any? Put any?
Well, I think it would be adding things into e-news, adding things into social media, putting out information to the community about what the dangers are. Because to be honest, I've learned things about this that I didn't realize. That in times like now, where their wildlife is clearly looking for food sources because there is none out there, and the hardship is. But apparently, their digestive systems reduce, and they do kind of go into a semi-hibernation state. And that if you then put out a basket of apples, your intentions are good, but it actually can do them harm in their digestion, and then they will actually do more poorly in the. So our well-intentioned efforts are not don't have a good outcome for the wildlife. So again, I think what they're saying is, do we need to have the government being involved in this? And again, or can we just help people understand what they're doing has an impact, and it could be a negative impact.
And how do we measure success on that with the educational piece of it?
Well, we can monitor complaints.
It's a complaint driven.
Yeah.
So if there's one or two people, then maybe we really focus on, helping them understand what it is, rather than, and maybe the Environmental Advisory Committee. But we talked about how there's the State Wildlife Commission has information and resources that we could possibly utilize that. It's not like we have to recreate anything with that.
So if we look at educational piece of it, I'd like to say that, and this kind of ties into, Tanya, I think you mentioned doing more mailings, instead of just email blasts or, on the website or whatever. Like, we actually mail something out, because again, it's a concern of my own development. So it's not more than one, it's a few people that it's a little bit of a problem. It doesn't impact me personally where I live at, but it is a problem in my community. And then too, I don't know, Carolyn, if you can, I know the one person who stopped me at a meeting, but if there's been any other people that have actually ever sent emails that stick out for you.
I've only heard from one resident, and it was about a neighbor that she felt was feeding, and the neighbor had posted on Facebook some pictures. So she felt like this was the reason that her landscaping was getting damaged, that she was finding, deer droppings in her yard. And, she just felt like it was exacerbated by the fact that the neighbor was doing it. To your point about putting information out, we are going to do something like a newsletter, and it'll have, the goal is to have it paid for by the advertisers. That could certainly be a full page article in there, like with some graphics about, to sort of, so that it draws your attention to the page, not just a lot of verbiage. I would hesitate to try to start doing mailers per issue because now we're going to be looking at like a lot of money. Like we would have to sort of switch our resources and maybe not do as much as we've been trying to do with our outreach in other areas. But if you want to do a, sort of like a frequent complaint kind of article, we could do that. But we could certainly focus on, what feeding of animals does. And even to the point of feral cats, the community I was in before now, there was a townhouse community. There was a neighbor feeding feral cats, and the next door neighbor would come home and find cat waste on their deck in their flower beds. And she had young children. So she came to the board and said, they're not my cats, and yet I can't have my children even play outside on my deck. So there is an issue, all the way around, regardless of whether we're talking about deer, whether we're talking about fox. I mean, they are in our community. You can go in our parking lot and you'll see the deer all down by the gazebo. I turned out of the parking lot one night and there was a buck standing in the middle of Stumper. So they're here. They've been displaced so much. They've acclimated, and they will come right up to your house. I mean, I could attest to it. They will eat your daylilies. Are going to be gone. You'll come out and you'll have stems,
Pasta? No.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, exactly. So, but if we're going to exacerbate it by feeding them, then maybe that does warrant to be included in any kind of mailing that we do.
And it's possible we could even do a podcast. These are things I think people are interested in because they see it. They see the deer, they see the animals, and they worry about it. And they think, what could I be doing? And sometimes you have to reassure them that nature can take care of itself. And as uncomfortable as that is, it may be the best solution.
Okay. Is there any other feedback from our two other supervisors at this end?
No.
Nothing to add.
So-
Nothing
so-
that hasn't been said.
So I'm asking you to weigh in though, because we do need to provide the staff with direction on how we want to move forward or not with an ordinance as it relates to feeding wild animals. Do we want to, are you in favor of just sort of tabling it for now, monitoring it and working through an educational exercise as sort of
Yeah, I
recommended?
mean, I lean toward tabling and education, not creating another ordinance at this point.
Okay, Candace?
Same. Keep the government out of people's backyards.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think we have consensus.
That's good.
All right. Is there any new business to come before the board?
Not necessarily new business. I just want to make a comment to Greg and your team. Old business.
Have we hired the fire department expansion consultants?
Yes.
Were they receptive to the idea of prioritizing the personnel issue first over, that came up a month ago, that when we hired them, we were going to ask them, can you look at the fire department number of personnel first before you get into the whole project? Because we were concerned whether we would run out of enough firefighters, early before they were done in their 4 or 5 month plan. That was discussed a month ago.
Yes, they're proceeding.
But did they agree that they would prioritize the the number of personnel we had first before they got into the whole? That was a question that was going to be put to them.
Yes. Yes, they're proceeding, and they're going to be gathering all of the document and information with a focus on staffing first.
They're going to, okay, thanks.
So Greg, you and your team, outstanding job cleaning up that storm, which was just difficult to clean up. And I'll say to just put out to township residents, yes, it's very difficult to clean up an ice and snowstorm, but to work together in your communities to help each other to clean off sidewalks and clean off mailboxes. If we work together in our community, we can take care of this. Yes, it's difficult. And, I've been out there with trying to move my 80-year-old neighbors back into their houses to help them with the ice and snow. Having clear sidewalks is really important. There are still some sidewalks that aren't clear. So as it warms up this week.
And fire hydrants.
Fire hydrant, that was the other thing. Thanks. So, but your team, you were out there you're probably still out there doing stuff. So thank you.
They're still cleaning up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Really, please extend our gratitude, appreciation to your team. I mean, you guys just do incredible work, and I think that it's rarely appreciated. and maybe too seldom acknowledged. So thank you, Supervisor Pelletier, for acknowledging that great work.
You guys did a great job. They really did. So we'll pick up.
Yeah. You know, and thanks to all of our emergency personnel and people who are out there in the storm. I know that it is not easy to be out there in the middle of it. So thank you all.
You're here. All right. If there is no other business to come before the board at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
There you go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night, everyone.
Will you talk to John about the 501c3?
I already sent him an email.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this email I have to do in the morning. Great.
Yes. You're on the email too.